Summer is here. Like, at the time of filming this, it is just now the beginning of June, and in Northern California, we've already surpassed 100 degrees. It's hot. With that being said, that means I can't wear my Appa cosplay until it starts to cool down a little bit more. But I'm still on my Avatar: The Last Airbender high, and I still want to rep my flying bison baby boy. I also still have so much of the fabric left over from my Appa build, so I thought what better way to continue repping and to stash bust than to make a fuzzy flying bison bucket hat. Let's get to it. Okay, we're back inside where it is cool. And it's also a little bit dark in here because I have the blinds kind of closed to keep this apartment as cool as possible. I live on the second floor, and oh boy, does it get hot. But I have in front of me my current projects bin. These are all old projects that I just haven't switched out yet. But this is where I have all the materials that I used for my Appa cosplay. So I'm just going to pull it out and kind of see what we've got going. I know for the minky fabric, which is the white, which will be the main base of the bucket hat, I still have a ton of this. I actually have way more than I thought I did. There's also some smaller bits that I've kept. Like, so I have a whole pile of this fabric. So we're good on that. For the arrow, I want to try and do the brown suede that I used on the fabric. So if you haven't seen my Appa cosplay, I will put a picture here. But the belt is like a brown upholstery suede. And then on the like hand paw parts, there's a light brown, which I have both of. I think I'm gonna lean towards doing the dark brown though. I think it'll look cooler. Or I might do what I did on the pants of my Appa cosplay and airbrush it. I just gonna do some tests and see which one I would prefer. And then for the lining of the costume, or for the hat, for the lining of the hat, I think I might just line it with brown. I do have some white, like, swimsuit lining material that I could use, but I'm not sure if I want to do that or not. It might be cooler, so maybe I'll lean towards that too. So those are the options for fabric. Hopefully this will help me stash bust a little bit, because I still need to clean all of this fabric out and replace it with my new project, and that means it's got to go back in the stash bin, and the stash bin is overflowing. That's why all of this is still here. But yeah, those are the fabrics. I also have a pattern. I found a free pattern online, and I will link it in the description below. But the next step is to just start cutting out pieces. So let's go. So once I had all my materials picked out, I went ahead and started cutting out the pattern. I wasn't sure how big this was going to be, and I wanted to take into consideration my curly hair, so I decided to go with the largest size, which is an adult extra large. In hindsight, it is actually a bit smaller than I had anticipated, but it still worked. Once all the pieces were cut out, I went ahead and started transferring those over onto the minky as well as the brown cotton lining. I made sure to cut both the brim and the side pattern pieces on a fold, meaning that the fabric is folded in half, so when we cut it out, it's going to be twice as long as the original pattern piece. Once all the pattern pieces were cut out, I started sewing them together, starting with sewing the 2 brim pieces together as well as the 2 side pieces together. When you're connecting each row of pieces, so the brim to the sides and the sides to the top, you want to make sure that you're cutting in notches to give way for the stretch of the sew. I talk about this a little bit later, but I did end up going back and adding interfacing to the lining just to give a little bit more structure to the hat because it was a bit more floppy than I wanted. Once both the fashion layer and the lining layer were completely assembled, I was able to sew them together, flip it right side out, and give a top stitch around the brim. So it has been a couple days. I actually was trying to finish this in one day right before leaving for a wedding. So I'm back from the wedding and I have the finished bucket hat here. I did actually have to put interface in this just because the fabrics were just a little too loose and floppy for my liking. So after I had sewing the lining together, I went ahead and ripped it apart and re-sewed it in with some interfacing. So now it's nice and stiff. They are both attached, fully complete, and the next step is to do the arrow. For the arrow, I started out by tracing a quick template on a piece of paper. I did this by folding it in half and drawing one side of the arrow so that I could cut it out and it would be symmetrical on both sides. I actually ended up cutting out the arrow a little bit bigger than I had originally drawn it, and it ended up being perfect. So my advice to you is to always cut things out just slightly bigger than you had originally anticipated because it is a lot easier to take away than it is to add to something. I then transferred the arrow onto Clear Matte by Contact Brand. This is basically just like a giant roll of sticker paper that you can cut your own designs out of, and I used this as a border for the arrow to protect the rest of the hat from where I plan to airbrush. Airbrushing is similar to spray painting in that it gives off a mist of paint, so to protect the rest of the white hat, I went ahead and masked it off with some plastic nailers that I had lying around. We have no glasses today, and between now and me filming this arrow, I lost my glasses. So, context as it is. The arrow is done. I definitely could leave it like this if I wanted to, but I think I want to add some removable horns on the side just because I think it'd be cute. So I'm going to pattern out those horns, get them sewn up, and I have an idea of how I want to attach them. To pattern out the horn, I started out with sketching a 2D version just to make sure that I liked the size in comparison to the hat. And then once I had that all figured out, I went ahead and made a 3D version of that using my paper template as a guide. Once I was satisfied with the shape, I did the tried and true cosplay method for pattern making and covered it in saran wrap and tape. However, once I had the pattern completed and all cut out, I realized that it looked really similar to the pattern that I had drawn on the piece of paper, so I probably could have used that and just saved myself so much more time, but we live and we learn. I then transferred the pattern onto the brown suede that I had talked about earlier, and this clip is terrible. I'm so sorry, you literally cannot see anything. I sewed both of the horns together, cutting a notch at the tip, turned them right side out, and I started stuffing them. In order to make the horns detachable, I'm using a base of EVA foam and these screws that have a male and a female part that screw into each other. I am inserting the female part into the EVA foam that will be at the base of the horn. That way I can screw in from the inside of the hat so that they become detachable. I also went in and added a circle of the same brown fabric on the bottom just to cover up the foam so it's a little bit cleaner. To finish off, I added eyelets on either side of the hat, which you can see in a lot of manufactured bucket hats, but these will also be used to hold the horns. And with that, let's get into the reveal. I think it's really cute. I did my best to kind of style an outfit. I realized I don't wear a lot of brown or white, hence the green pants. But I think it kind of works actually. I think it's a cute color combination. As for my thoughts with the hat, it is like just big enough to fit on my head, and I would consider my head kind of small. So be wary of the pattern if you do decide to use this. You might need to upsize it a lot more. I already upsized it. The pattern includes seam allowance within like the actual pattern lines. I cut outside of that, so I made it slightly bigger and still it just fits my head. So be wary of that. I will also say that with the airbrushing on the angular part of the arrow, right where these seam lines are, there's a little bit of patchiness from the painting that I just really couldn't get because of the dent from where the two pieces of fabric connect together. So I don't really like that, but it's really not that noticeable unless you're looking up close. And I also really just need to invest in like a hole punch, like a leather hole punch, if I'm gonna keep putting like grommets and eyelets and things, because it was a struggle to be able to get these horns in, but I managed to do it, and I think they look really, really cute. Overall, I'm really happy with it. I'm glad that I can wear this out and about at conventions when I'm not in cosplay. I can kind of still be in character without actually being in character, if that makes sense. So yeah. And I'm also really glad that I was able to stash bust this. I still have a ton of fabric left over from this and from my Appa cosplay. So I'm thinking about making more of them, potentially selling them or potentially giving them away. Um, as a giveaway for milestones on either YouTube or Instagram. So if you're interested in that, feel free to hit the subscribe button or check out my Instagram. If I get to 5K, I'll probably be doing a big giveaway over there. So feel free to check that out. And yeah, overall, that's it. I hope you guys liked this video. I thought I would do something a little fun just to celebrate my Avatar The Last Airbender obsession. So I hope you enjoyed it. If you want to see even more of my face, feel free to check my links below. I'm on all my social media platforms at Cosplay. You can check me out on Patreon for as little as $1. I will have a mini photo set with this hat there as well. So if you want to check that out, feel free. Otherwise, you get other exclusive behind the scenes, test fits of my costumes, what I plan on doing next, events that I'll be going to, exclusive video content, all that kind of stuff over there. Again, for as little as $1. If not, totally okay. You interacting with this video is chef's kiss, perfectly fine. I love it, all of it. With that being said, I'm gonna get out of here because it's hot, and I want to take off this vest. Thank you guys so much for joining me on this cosplay adventure, and I'll catch you guys in the next one. Bye.